They turned their backs when I needed them most. Years later, they begged me to come back. But I wasn't the same anymore. Broken heart family. Lies. Regret. This is how I rebuilt my life from rock bottom, and made them watch me heal. You know how people always say, family is everything. Yeah, I used to believe that too. Right up until the day I found out my family had been celebrating my birthday, without me, for 4 years straight. Let me back up. I'm 28 now, but this all started when I was 24. I just moved across the country for a job in Seattle. I'm in tech, shocking, I know, and I'd landed a position with a startup that actually valued work-life balance. The pay wasn't amazing, but it was enough to rent a one-bedroom without roommates and still afford oat milk and overpriced candles. Life felt solid. Back home, I left behind my parents, my younger brother Darren, and my older sister Vanessa. We weren't the sit around the fire and share feelings kind of family. We were more like polite roommates who happened to share DNA. Still, we had our traditions, especially when it came to birthdays. Every year, on each of our birthdays, we'd have dinner together. It wasn't fancy, just home-cooked meals and a chocolate cake from that overpriced bakery Mom swore by. Even when I moved, we kept up the tradition. For my first birthday away, they sent a care package with handwritten cards. Mom even FaceTimed me so I could blow out the candle on a cupcake she lit on her end. It was sweet. Normal. Comforting. But the next year, things got weird. It started small. No package. No call. I figured maybe something came up. A family emergency? I texted our group chat. Hey, everything okay? Didn't hear from you today. I got one thumbs up emoji from Darren. That was it. I let it go. Then came Christmas. I flew home, gifts in tow, but the mood was off. Vanessa was too busy to meet up. Darren gave me a Target gift card in an envelope that still had a grocery list scribbled on the back. My parents barely asked about my life in Seattle. It felt like being a guest in my own family. Still, I chalked it up to holiday stress. I mean, who doesn't get a little crabby around December? Then my 26th birthday came and went. Nothing. Again. That time, I didn't let it slide. I called my mom. Straight to voicemail. I texted my dad. Left on read. I tried Vanessa. She sent back. Sorry, crazy day at work. Happy belated. A full week later. No one remembered. Or if they did, they just didn't care enough to say anything. I started spiraling. I mean, what had I done? I went through every possible scenario. Was it the argument about politics with Dad 2 years ago? Did I offend Vanessa's husband at their wedding? Had Darren been harboring some long-standing sibling grudge? But here's the thing, no one said anything. Just silence. For the next few years, I still sent gifts. Called on birthdays. Reached out on holidays. And every single time, I was either ignored or met with cold civility. Eventually, I stopped trying. I figured, okay. They've clearly made a choice. Maybe I wasn't meant to be part of their lives anymore. It hurt. Bad. But I adapted. I built a new family out of friends. I started new traditions. I went to therapy. And slowly, I made peace with the idea that sometimes, the people who are supposed to love you the most simply don't. Then last month, I got a text that shattered that peace into a million sharp little pieces. It was from Rachel, my childhood neighbor. We weren't close, but she used to come over for birthdays and barbecues. The message said, Hey! Random question, why weren't you at your birthday dinner this year? It looked so fun! What? I stared at the screen for what felt like a full minute. My heart started racing. My birthday dinner? I messaged back. Sorry, what dinner? She responded with a link to a Facebook post. It was a photo. Taken just 3 weeks ago. There was my entire family, Mom, Dad, Vanessa, Darren, even my cousin Lydia who lives 2 states over, gathered around a chocolate cake with Happy birthday, Alex! Scrawled across it. Alex. That's me. They were smiling. Toasting. Celebrating my birthday. Without me. I sat on my couch for hours that night, just staring at that photo. Refreshing it. Zooming in on every face. They looked so happy. So normal. Like they hadn't ghosted me for 4 years. Like I wasn't thousands of miles away wondering what the hell I'd done wrong. The worst part? They'd been doing this every year. I scrolled back through Vanessa's old posts. Private, but not enough to block mutual friends. I found 3 more photos, one from each birthday I'd spent alone, thinking they'd forgotten. Each time, same cake. Same family. No me. That's when the fury started boiling under my skin. This wasn't a forgetful slip. This was intentional. A performance. A party for someone they deliberately excluded. And for what? I had to know. So I did something I swore I never would. I flew home. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. I booked a red-eye flight, landed early on a Saturday, rented a car, and drove straight to my parents' house. No warning. No texts. Just me, the questions boiling in my chest, and the Facebook photo saved in my camera roll like evidence at a crime scene. Their house looked the same. Beige siding, a slightly crooked mailbox, and Mom's ceramic frog statues still lined the porch steps like sentries. I half expected to feel nostalgic, but all I felt was anxious. My heart thudded in my ears as I stood there, hand raised, fist ready to knock. I didn't even get the chance. The door opened before I could touch it. My mom stood in the doorway, wearing one of her floral aprons and holding a wooden spoon. For a second, she blinked, clearly trying to process what she was looking at. "Alex?" she said, like she wasn't sure if I was real. I forced a smile that felt foreign on my face. "Hey, Mom." Surprise. She stepped aside automatically, still stunned. I walked past her into the living room, which smelled like garlic and floor polish. Everything was so normal. Too normal. Like I hadn't been erased from this place one birthday at a time. My dad appeared from the hallway next, face paling as soon as he saw me. "Well, look who decided to show up." I turned slowly to face him. "Yeah, I figured it was about time someone did." No one laughed. My mom closed the door and set the spoon down on a side table. "Are you here for something?" she asked. I blinked. "I'm here because I have questions. And I think I deserve answers." Silence. She glanced at Dad, then back at me. "We didn't know you were coming." "That's kind of the point," I said, pulling out my phone and holding up the birthday photo. "I didn't know you were celebrating me without me." Her eyes flicked to the screen and back. Her face stayed composed, too composed. It's not what it looks like." "Really?" I said, stepping closer. "Because it looks like the entire family threw a party for someone they haven't spoken to in 4 years. My dad finally spoke up, arms folded. "It's not that simple." "Oh, I bet it is," I snapped. "So please, enlighten me. What exactly did I do to get blacklisted from my own life?" My mom sat down on the edge of the couch like her knees had buckled. "You left." I stared at her. "What?" "You left," she repeated. "You moved across the country, Alex. You stopped being part of this family." "I got a job," I said. "I didn't disappear off the face of the earth. I called. I sent gifts. I texted. You all stopped responding." My dad rubbed his forehead like I was giving him a migraine. "You chose your new life. That's fine. But don't act surprised when we learn to live without you." I just stood there, stunned. "You learned to live without me by pretending I didn't exist? By throwing me ghost birthdays like I was dead but still mildly convenient to remember?" Mom shifted uncomfortably. "It was for your grandmother. She asked us to keep the tradition. She doesn't know how things have been." "And whose fault is that?" I said. "You ignored me for years." "And for what? Because I moved away?" Dad sighed. "No, Alex. It's because you made it clear you didn't want to be part of us anymore." "By doing what? Living my life?" "I called. I visited. I invited you to come see me. You never did. I didn't shut you out, you shut me out." Then Mom said something I didn't expect. "Vanessa told us not to bother." I turned to her slowly. "What?" "She said you were too busy for us," Mom continued. "That you were always making excuses. That you didn't really want us involved." My heart dropped into my stomach. "Vanessa said that?" "She showed us messages," Dad added. "Told us you were tired of dealing with the family drama. That you were distancing yourself on purpose." My jaw clenched. I hadn't spoken to Vanessa in almost a year, and even before that, our texts were civil, distant, but polite. "I never said anything like that. I never said that," I told them. "And I sure as hell didn't tell her to cut me off." My mom's face was pale now. "She showed us screenshots. Then she faked them," I said flatly. "Because I never said that. Not once." My dad looked like he wanted to protest, but my mom seemed to believe me, at least partially. She rubbed her hands together, eyes unfocused, like she was seeing the last few years all over again. "I don't understand," she murmured. Why would she lie? Maybe, I said. You should ask her. Later that afternoon, I went to see Vanessa. She lived about 20 minutes away, in a fancy little townhouse with her husband, 2 kids, and a labradoodle named Jasper. Her porch was decorated with a chalkboard sign that said, "Live, laugh, love." I nearly turned around right there. But I didn't. She opened the door wearing yoga pants and a fake smile. Well, look who it is. Cut the crap, I said, pushing past her into the foyer. We need to talk. Okay, first of all, she said, closing the door behind me. You don't just barge into someone's house like that. Funny, I snapped. You didn't seem to mind barging into my life and rewriting the narrative. She crossed her arms. What are you talking about? I held up my phone again. You told Mom and Dad I didn't want them in my life. You faked messages. You made it seem like I abandoned them. Her eyes flickered. Just for a second. Then she scoffed. They made their own choices. Based on your lies. Why? Vanessa walked to the kitchen and poured herself a glass of wine like we were having a casual chat. You've always been the favorite, Alex. Even after you left, they talked about you like you hung the damn moon. It was exhausting. I blinked. So this was, what? Payback? Call it balancing the scales, she said with a shrug. They finally started seeing me once you were out of the picture. I stared at her, speechless. You lied to our parents to get attention. I gave them a story that made sense, she said. One where they didn't feel abandoned. Where they could blame you instead of themselves. You know what's funny? I said, voice trembling. I thought maybe I did something wrong. For years, I wondered what I did to deserve being erased. And all this time, it was you. She sipped her wine. You're not exactly blameless. You did leave. And you made sure no one followed. I didn't hit her. Let's just make that clear. But I wanted to. I wanted to scream, throw the wineglass she was so casually sipping like this was some gossipy catch-up over brunch. But instead I stood there in her pristine kitchen, surrounded by trendy decor and curated calm, trying not to implode. You ruined my relationship with our parents, I said slowly, each word like a bitter pill. Because you felt invisible. She rolled her eyes. It wasn't just that. Then what was it? I demanded. She walked to the window, looked out at her picture-perfect backyard with the neatly trimmed hedges and the plastic slide her kids probably never touched because it didn't match the aesthetic. You were always the one they invested in. The one they bragged about. I was just there. That's not true. You were the golden child, Alex. The one who got piano lessons and summer camps. I had to beg to join the stupid school newspaper. I didn't ask to be the favorite. No, she said, turning back toward me. But you benefited from it. And when you left, I finally had a chance to step out of your shadow. So you burned the bridge behind me? She didn't answer. I could feel the heat building in my chest again. You know what's really sad? I thought maybe something was wrong with me. I thought I broke this family. But it was you. All along. I didn't expect it to go this far. She murmured. They were supposed to move on eventually. Well, they did, I said bitterly. With your help. Her voice went flat. It's not like you missed much. I laughed, short, sharp, humorless. No? I miss 4 years of birthdays. Holidays. Family dinners. I miss Grandma's funeral. That one hit her. Her lips parted slightly. They didn't tell me you weren't invited. Bull. I spat. You made sure they thought I didn't want to come. She looked away. I shook my head. You lied to your own brother and let me believe I wasn't wanted by the people who raised us. I did what I had to do. For what? So you could get a few extra compliments and a new seat at the dinner table? Her eyes hardened. You left us, Alex. No, I said. I just stopped orbiting around you. I left her house in a daze, driving with no real destination. My phone buzzed a few times, calls from Mom and Dad. Vanessa must have warned them. I ignored everyone. I ended up at the park we used to go to as kids. The same cracked seesaw. The same faded swing set. I sat on a bench and let the truth settle in like ash. Vanessa didn't just hurt me. She poisoned an entire network of relationships. And my parents, they let it happen. Sure, she lied. But they didn't even ask me. They never once called me out or confronted me. They just chose to believe the worst. That stung worse than the betrayal. I stayed in town a few more days. I didn't see Vanessa again. My parents asked to meet. I said no. I couldn't stomach the idea of facing them now that I knew how quickly they'd let me go. On my last night, I got a knock at the hotel door. It was Darren. My younger brother, the quiet one. The one who had texted me a single thumbs up on that first birthday they forgot. I hadn't seen him in years. "Hey," he said, hands stuffed in his hoodie pockets. "Hey," I replied, unsure what this was going to be. "Can we talk?" I nodded and let him in. We sat on the cheap hotel couch. He looked around like he didn't quite know what to say. Finally, he broke the silence. "I knew something was off," he said. "What do you mean?" "Vanessa. The way she talked about you. At first it was subtle. Little digs. Then suddenly, she was the one telling us you didn't want to be involved. Said you were too busy for us. Too successful to deal with your boring old family. Did you believe her?" "I didn't want to. But you stopped reaching out." "I didn't stop," I said. "I just stopped begging." He nodded slowly. "That's fair." There was a long pause. Then he said something I didn't expect. "I'm sorry." I looked at him. "For what?" "For not pushing back. For not asking questions. For just going along with it. I miss you, man." My throat tightened. I hadn't realized how badly I needed to hear that. "I miss you too." We sat in silence for a while, the kind that only exists between people who share a childhood and 100 unspoken memories. It wasn't perfect. It didn't fix everything. But it was something. Before he left, he said, "They'll probably try to fix this. Mom and Dad. Just be careful. They've been telling themselves a story for so long, I'm not sure they'll know what's real anymore." I nodded. "Thanks for coming." He gave me a quick hug, awkward, but genuine, and left. On the flight back to Seattle, I stared out the window and let myself feel it all. The anger. The sadness. The betrayal. But also, relief. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't the villain in some silent family feud. I was just the casualty of someone else's insecurity, and a family too lazy to get the full story. When I landed, there was a message from my mom. A long one. It said she was sorry. That she hadn't known. That she believed me now, but wished I'd said something sooner. That last part made me want to throw my phone across the room. I didn't respond. Not yet. Because forgiveness isn't a switch you flip. It's a bridge you both have to rebuild, and I wasn't sure they even brought their half of the wood. The first week back in Seattle felt like I was living in a snow globe someone had just shaken violently. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt right. I went back to work, responded to a mountain of emails, ate takeout while scrolling Netflix menus I never picked anything from. But my brain was somewhere else, still trapped in my hometown, still reliving that conversation in Vanessa's kitchen and the look on Darren's face when he apologized. I hadn't responded to Mom's message. Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't know how. What do you say to someone who watched you disappear and didn't flinch? A few days later, I got a letter. A physical one. Handwritten. That was rare enough to make me open it immediately. It was from my dad. "Alex. I'm not good with words, so I'll keep this short. I failed you. We failed you. I don't know what Vanessa told us or why we didn't question it more. I thought we were doing what was best. That was a lie I told myself. The truth is, it was easier to believe you moved on than admit we pushed you away. I can't fix what we broke overnight. I know that. But I'd like to try. If you'll let me. Love. Dad." I read it 3 times. Folded it back into the envelope. Then stared at my ceiling for a solid hour. Here's the thing, part of me wanted to let it go. To forgive, reconnect, pretend the last few years were just a misunderstanding. But the other part, the bigger, louder part, was still raw. Still angry. Because even if Vanessa was the catalyst, my parents chose not to fight for me. They let me go without a word. That kind of pain doesn't just fade. It changes you. A week later, my phone buzzed with a new text, from a cousin I barely talked to. "Jess. Hey, just wanted you to know, a few of us didn't buy what Vanessa was selling. We missed you. Let us know if you ever want to catch up. No pressure." It was short. Simple. But it meant more than she probably realized. Turns out, not everyone was fooled. Some people noticed. Some people remembered me. That was the first time in a long while I felt like maybe, just maybe, I hadn't been completely erased. Then the group chat exploded. It was an old one. Family Core. Or something cheesy like that. Hadn't lit up in years, and suddenly I was getting pings left and right. Apparently, someone had confronted Vanessa. Word had gotten out, maybe from Darren, maybe from my parents. All I know is, my phone was lighting up with messages from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Aunt Linda. Why would you tell people Alex didn't want anything to do with us? Cousin Leo. I can't believe we just accepted it like sheep. Sorry, man. Vanessa. This isn't fair. Everyone's acting like I'm the villain. You don't know what it was like growing up with him as the golden boy. Uncle Dave. We're not 12 anymore, Vanessa. You don't sabotage family just to feel seen. It was surreal watching everyone argue about me in real time. I hadn't said a word. I didn't need to. The truth was out, and it was unraveling all on its own. Then Vanessa left the chat. Poof. Just like that. No apology. No explanation. Just silence. A few days later, I got another letter. This one from my mom. Alex. I don't know how to begin this. So I'll just say I'm sorry. I let your sister turn us against you. I didn't ask questions. I didn't listen to my gut. I just went along with it. You were always my baby, even if I didn't show it well. I was hurt when you moved away. That's not an excuse, it's just the truth. I hope one day we can talk. But I understand if that day isn't soon. Love. Mom. It hit different than Dad's. Hers felt messier, more emotional. And maybe more honest. But still, it was too late for words to fix everything. Vanessa eventually emailed me. It wasn't an apology. It was more of a justification. A 3-paragraph monologue about how I never understood what it was like to live in my shadow. She mentioned therapy. Claimed she was working 3 years of invisible wounds. There was one line that stuck out though. I didn't mean for it to hurt you that much. That was the line that made me close the laptop. Because here's the truth she'll never get, she didn't just hurt me. She changed the trajectory of my entire relationship with my family. She made me feel replaceable. Forgotten. Unloved. And no amount of therapy or half-baked excuses could undo that. I didn't respond to her. But I did call my dad. It wasn't a long call. Just 15 minutes. We talked about the weather. About baseball. He asked how work was going, and I gave vague, polite answers. It was awkward. But not cold. Then he said something that surprised me. I know we don't deserve a second chance, he said. But if you give us one, we'll earn it. I didn't know what to say. So I said, I'll think about it. And I meant it. Because healing doesn't happen just because someone's sorry. It happens when they change. When they show up. When they stop expecting you to make it easy. 3 months went by. I didn't jump back into the family fold. I didn't show up for Sunday dinners or group FaceTimes. But I didn't shut the door entirely either. My dad would call once or twice a month, usually about nothing, just enough to remind me he was still there. My mom sent texts now and then, always careful, always soft, like she was learning to talk to me all over again. I didn't respond to every message. Some days I just couldn't. But I appreciated the effort. I also started texting Darren more. We'd send each other dumb memes, old childhood photos, the occasional "Remember when?" message. He was the first one who made it feel like there was still something worth salvaging from the wreckage. Vanessa never reached out again. Not directly. I heard through the grapevine that she'd started therapy for real. Good for her, I guess. But I wasn't waiting around for a redemption arc. That chapter was closed. In mid-November, I got a wedding invite from Jess, my cousin. She'd always been one of the quiet ones at family gatherings, observant, kind, never took sides. The card was simple, handwritten, and tucked inside was a note. Hey Alex, no pressure. I just wanted you to know you're welcome. For real. No pretending, no drama. I'd love for you to come. Something about it hit me in the chest. I hadn't been to a family event in years. The idea made me anxious. But the fact that someone went out of their way to make me feel included, with no guilt or expectation, it mattered. So I bought a ticket. The wedding was small. Backyard setting, fairy lights, live acoustic band, one of those Pinterest-style things that actually looked as good in real life as it did in the pictures. I showed up in a navy suit, slightly overdressed, heart pounding. But as soon as I stepped onto the lawn, Jess spotted me and ran up with a big smile. You came, she said, wrapping me in a hug before I could even speak. Wouldn't miss it, I said and meant it. Her eyes got a little misty. You look good. Like actually happy. I chuckled. Therapy's a hell of a drug. That broke the tension. She laughed and led me into the crowd. A few cousins came up to say hi, some awkward, some warm. But no one made it weird. No one asked about Vanessa or tried to force me into forgiveness. It felt human. Real. Then I saw them. My parents. Sitting near the front, my mom in a lavender dress, my dad in a pressed gray suit, looking around nervously, until they spotted me. My mom stood up like she wasn't sure whether to approach or stay still. My dad gave me a small, hesitant wave. I gave a nod. Not a smile. Not a cold shoulder. Just acknowledgement. That was all I had in me. They seemed to understand. They sat down again, glancing back only once or twice. Later, after the ceremony, I found a quiet spot near the bar. I was sipping on a whiskey when Darren slid into the seat next to me, 2 beers in hand. For you, he said, offering one. You know I'm not a beer guy. It's symbolic. I took it anyway. So what's the symbolism? Family. Forgiveness. Foam. He shrugged. I don't know. I just didn't want to drink alone. We sat in silence for a while. Then he said, Mom asked if she could talk to you. Just for a minute. No pressure. I took a long sip. Does she know how to listen yet? I asked. He smiled a little. She's trying. Trying. That was the word that kept coming back. Not fixed. Not forgiven. Just trying. That was enough for me to nod. Okay, I said. 1 minute. We stood under the string lights at the edge of the lawn. My mom approached slowly, like I might vanish if she stepped too hard. Hi, she said softly. Hi. She looked at me, eyes shiny. You look good. You've already said that. I know. She paused. I just wanted to say, thank you. For coming. For giving us, me, a chance to start over. I nodded. I won't ask you to forget everything, she said. But I'll keep showing up, if that's what you need. That landed harder than she probably realized. Because showing up was exactly what they didn't do before. All right, I said, voice a little hoarse. Then I'll keep listening. She reached out like she might hug me, then stopped. I closed the gap. It wasn't a long hug. But it was enough. I didn't stay late. I left before dessert, before the dancing, before the small talk could turn into awkward catch-ups. But on the ride home, I felt lighter. Something had shifted. Not fixed. Not perfect. But real. And maybe that's the best you can ask for with family. Not clean slates. Not do-overs. Just the truth and the will to try again. That December, I invited Darren to spend Christmas in Seattle. Just him, no parents, no drama. He said yes without hesitation. We got Chinese takeout, watched bad holiday movies, and stayed up until 2 a.m. playing video games like we were teenagers again. It was the most fun I'd had on a holiday in years. Before he left, he said, Next year, maybe Mom and Dad can come too? Maybe, I said. If they bring pie. We laughed. But something in my chest softened at the thought. New Year's came quietly. No champagne. No wild party. Just me, Darren, and a few friends watching fireworks from my apartment balcony. I remember thinking, this is it. This is what peace looks like. Not a lack of noise, but the right kind of noise. People laughing, clinking glasses, yelling, Happy New Year! Without walking on eggshells. No buried tension. No backhanded comments. No pretending. Just presence. In the weeks that followed, something settled in me. A kind of clarity. I realized I'd spent so much of my life trying to earn my family's love, first by achieving, then by chasing. But somewhere along the way, I'd stopped asking whether I wanted theirs in return. It hit me one night while doing dishes. That question, so small, so simple, blew a hole through years of habit. Did I want these people in my life? Did they make me feel safe? Or had I just accepted dysfunction as the price of admission? One afternoon, I got a text from Vanessa. Just one line. Can we talk? I stared at it for 10 full minutes. I won't lie, I considered it. I wondered if maybe she was finally ready to say what I'd needed to hear for years. But then I thought about the silence. The distance. The gaslighting. The time I cried in my apartment on Christmas because everyone forgot me. And I realized, I didn't owe her my healing. So I deleted the message. No dramatic reply. No closure-seeking monologue. Just gone. In March, my mom called and asked if I'd like to come home for her birthday. Nothing fancy, she said. Just a quiet dinner. Maybe some pie. Who's going to be there? I asked. Just me and your dad. Darren, if he can make it. Not Vanessa? A pause. No. She's not invited this time. That answer spoke volumes. I thought about it for a moment, then said, Okay. I'll come. I flew in the next weekend. The house looked the same, familiar in a way that felt more nostalgic than comforting. My mom opened the door and hugged me like she hadn't been sure I'd show until I was standing on her porch. Inside, it was quiet. Candles on the table. My dad was setting out plates, trying not to act overly eager, but I could tell he was glad I was there. Darren showed up an hour later, holding a grocery store cake and a pack of those old birthday candles shaped like letters. We talked. Laughed. Ate too much. And at one point, as we sat around the table, my dad looked at me and said, You know, I didn't realize how much I miss your voice until I stopped hearing it. I didn't say anything back. I just nodded. That was enough. Later, when it was just me and Mom cleaning up in the kitchen, she looked over and asked, Are you happy? I thought about it. About the distance. The therapy. The rebuilding. The family I was slowly piecing back together, not the one I was born into, but the one I was choosing. Yeah, I said. I think I finally am. She smiled. A little sad, a little proud. Good. Then she said something I'll never forget. You taught us how to be better parents, Alex. I just wish it hadn't cost you so much. After that visit, something changed. I didn't move back home or start showing up for every holiday. But I did stay in touch. I called when I felt like it. I replied when I had the energy. I stopped feeling guilty for needing space. And when someone in the family crossed a line, said something too passive-aggressive or tried to drag up old drama, I spoke up. Calmly. Clearly. Without apology. I had boundaries now. I wasn't that kid anymore. I wasn't Vanessa's shadow or my parents' trophy or the forgotten middle sibling. I was me, and I finally liked who that was. One afternoon, Jess called and said, You know, you've changed a lot. In a good way. Yeah? Yeah. You seem like someone who finally stopped waiting to be invited and started building your own table. That stuck with me. Building my own table. It made me think about everyone who had pulled up a chair these past few years. Darren, Jess, my therapist, my coworkers, even a couple neighbors who became real friends. None of them were obligated to love me. They just did. Not because I achieved something. Not because I was family. But because I showed up as myself, and that was enough. I never reconciled with Vanessa. She kept trying here and there. A birthday text. A comment on an old social media post. One time she even mailed me a photo of us as kids captioned, Remember when we used to be close? I do remember. But I also remember what came after. And I know now that forgiveness doesn't always mean reunion. Sometimes it means letting go without hate. Wishing someone well, from a safe, healthy distance. So I forgave her. Quietly. Privately. But I never let her back in. The last time I visited my parents, my dad handed me something wrapped in an old dish towel. Found this cleaning out the garage. He said. It was my old baseball glove. The one he bought me when I was 10. The one he promised to break in himself. I looked at it. Faded leather. Still faintly smelled like dirt and oil. I held it in both hands, hard heavier than I expected. Thanks, I said. Not just for the glove, but for finally trying. So Reddit, I guess this is my update. Or maybe it's just my reflection. If you've ever been pushed out of your family by lies, favoritism, or just apathy, I want you to know this. You are not crazy. You are not too sensitive. You are not the villain in their convenient little story. And you're allowed to write your own. You're allowed to walk away. To come back. To set conditions. To build boundaries like fences, not walls, keeping you safe, but with gates that you control. Family isn't blood. Family is effort. It's people who see you, hear you, fight for you, and grow with you. So build your table. And when you do, save a seat for yourself. Because you've earned it. Every damn bit of it.